A very good day I bid to Dr. Geoffrey and my fellow friends. My name is Sue Yee, and today I'm going to present about language curriculum design by ISP Nation's John McAllister. So what is a curriculum? Curriculum is a collection of lessons, assessment, and other academic content that will be taught in a school, program, class by a teacher. It consists actual information that the teacher will need to use to teach in class. So how do we design a language curriculum? These pictures indicate a model that been designed by Nations and McAllister. We have a lot of circles in here, isn't it? So I would like to focus in the outer circle, which is the three sub-processes, then the inner circle, and the central, which is the goals. Last but not least, the large outer circle, which is the evaluation phase. The outer circle, where we also know it as the three sub-processes. Factor 1 is environment analysis, Factor 2 is need analysis, and Factor 3 the applications of principles. So what is environment analysis? Environment analysis is also where the situations the course will be using. Imagine that you are in a class and you are using a textbook. Have you ever wondered how did the textbook was created in first hand? So there will be a bunch of questions that is actually related to the natures of the learners, the teacher's skill, and the teaching situations, whether the class is appropriate or not to teach grammar, vocabulary for like certain activities. And then we also have example of environment analysis, which I personally will call it as the problem. We have the learner's lack of interest. Therefore, this is the curriculum, the language curriculum. They will have to create lesson plans that is actually creative and unique enough for the learners to develop more interest in learning the language. And then we have the learner's use of the first language in the classroom, which might or might not be the major problem of Malaysian here, as we Malaysian, we like to use our mother tongue such as Bahasa Melayu for the Malays and Mandarin for the Chinese. So a curriculum, they will have to design they will have to design a lesson plan that use English as a second language to the learners in Malaysia. Then the large size of the classes, where I will give a real life situations. Imagine that you all are in a class consists of 200 to 300 students. So as a lecturers, you will have to use slide presentation so that the students able to look at the information and learn something on the day. Then we have discovering needs, which is what the students want, need, and what the learner know and what they do not know yet. How do we discover their needs? Is that by conduct a test, question and interview, recalling previous performance, and consulting employers, teachers, and others who are involved. Besides that, we can also collect data such as textbook and manuals. By discovering their needs, we were able to understand the purposes even clearer. The applications of principle, which is the nature of language and language acquisition, is very important for a language curriculum designer to know. By doing a proper research, as we have known that language is actually diversity. So how a Mandarin teacher teach the Mandarin is very different with how English teacher teach English. So therefore, it is very important for us to understand the nature of language first. And then repetition, which is the key for vocabulary, so that the students can use it in real life situation and able to absorb, able to understand and use it better. And then thoughtful processing of materials, taking accounts of individual differences and learning style. It's also important as some students, they are quite slow to pick up while are very fast learners. So a curriculum have to adapt to both of them and come in between. And then learner's attitude, which is related to motivations, whether the learners is interested in learning English or not, and how do the curriculum able to give motivation to the learners. Perhaps we can create a very creative lesson plan such as singing in the class so that the students can learn more vocabulary. Moving on to the inner circles where we have goals, content and sequencing, format and presentations, last but not least, monitoring and assessing. Goals is located in the center of the inner circle. It is essential for us to decide why a course is being taught and what learners can get from it. It's very important to determine the contents of the course, to decide the focus in presentation, and also to guide assessment to know the present knowledge of the students and the teacher's skill. So that is all from me. I'd like to hand over the presentation to my partner Fardiana. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sue Yee, for your presentation. Hello everyone, my name is Fardiana and I would like to continue the presentation. Now that Sue Yee have described and explained about the most center part of the language curriculum design model, I would like to explain about the three elements surrounding the center, which is content and sequencing, format and presentation, and monitoring and assessing. These three elements is attached to the most center part of the circle, which is goals, because these three elements are directly influenced by goals. So firstly, we will start with content and sequencing. Content and sequencing is basically the content of a course. It consists of language items, ideas, skills, strategies to meet the goals of a course. Even though topics, themes, and tasks are like the major elements for progression of a course. However, it is really important for designers to not look away from tiny details for the content such as vocabulary, grammar, and discourse to make sure that the items are really covered. The importance of content and sequencing is to determine the items that should be in the course and to exclude those that should not be there. For instance, if in the vocabulary list of a content, there's a word, let's say standard 6 students, if there's a word that is maybe too advanced for the standard 6 students to understand, so we can definitely exclude those, which is why content and sequencing is really important in language curriculum design. Moving on to format and presentation. Format and presentation is basically the materials in a course that need to be presented to the learners in forms that will help them learning. There are a few advantages when it comes to format and presentation. Firstly, it is easier to make, because each one doesn't have to be planned separately. When there is a standardized format, the designers would feel easier to make rather than having to think of different formats to present to learners. Moving on, it is easier to monitor for teacher. When there is a standardized format, the teachers would feel really familiar, thus it is easier for them to monitor. Nextly, for students, it is easier to learn. I can relate this with my really bad experience when it comes to English textbooks during high school. I personally can never understand the content in the English textbooks and also the information that it is trying to present. I personally think that English textbooks during my high school are just so messy and just so complicated for my young self to understand. Hence, language curriculum designers should understand that the format and presentation that they are trying to present should not just be understandable for them. However, they should think if the learners and young learners would be easier to understand and learn the content. Nextly would be monitoring and assessing. Monitoring and assessing is basically examinations and tests. It is to assess how well the aims are achieved. So there are two types of tests, which is proficiency test and achievement test. Proficiency test is to measure what learners knows of the language before entering a course. For example, MUAT. I can relate this when I take LSP during the previous SEM. The first thing that the lecturer would ask before we start the course is, what is your MUAT results? So she will ask our proficiency test result to measure what we know about the language. It can be Band 3, Band 4, and Band 5, which is why MUAT is considered proficiency test. Moving on is achievement test. Achievement test is what we always do, such as SPM, end year, USM examinations, and all that. So the importance of monitoring and assessing and also test, which is to gain information about progress of learners and to gain information if the course is effective or not. Now that I have explained all the inner part, now I would like to explain about evaluation, which is the outermost part of the language curriculum design model. What can contribute to an evaluation of a course? Information gained from the assessment, which is the test. Evaluation basically tries to answer, is this a good course? Does it attract a lot of students? Does it satisfy the learners? Does it satisfy the teachers? So those are basically steps of evaluation. So the main purpose of evaluation in language design curriculum is to continue or to discontinue the course, to decide if we have to continue or to discontinue a course, or to put improvement in the course. Yet again, what I have explained about my bad experience when it comes to content and presentation of English textbooks. So during the evaluation phase, language curriculum designers can take note of all the bad points of a course and thus fix it and put improvements so that the course would be better. There is always room for improvement, which is why evaluation is really a crucial step in language curriculum design. Now that me and Sui have explained all the elements of language curriculum design, I would like to do a small recap. So firstly is to examine the environment, which is the outer circle, then to assess needs, which is the outer circle again, then to decide on principles, which is the upper circle. Then to set goals, which is the most center part of the language curriculum design model. Then to choose and sequence content, to design the lesson format, and to include assessment procedures. And last but not least would be the most outermost circle, which is the evaluation. That is the last step to design language curriculum. So that is all from us, and I hope dear viewers understand. Thank you so much.